it's okay to not know everything. You know, I, again, came out of a professional school and took a professional test to become a lawyer, and I think I felt like, gosh, I went to 3 years of graduate school, I passed the bar exam, I better know everything that comes out me. And what I figured out was I really didn't know anything about practicing law. I knew a bunch of stuff that maybe at a party, if somebody asked a question about the law, I could answer it, but I didn't know practically how to effectively represent my clients. And so I had to figure out that it was okay not to know certain things, but to work hard to try to figure out those answers. Be patient and listen. That's a big one. What's kind of happened is you've reached this crescendo on campus. You're a leader, maybe an SAA or whatever it is. People listen to you. Well, when you start back at the bottom here in a few months, you haven't built up that equity, that trust with others where they just automatically want to listen to you. So listen to them. Figure out how they want to be and receive your communication. And by listening, you'll learn a heck of a lot more than you will talking. Find a mentor. That's been huge for me. There are 2 attorneys at my office that single-handedly took me under their wings, and they're the only reason that I am where I am today as a professional. They were patient with me when I made mistakes. They challenged me to do things that I wasn't comfortable doing, but they gave me the comfort to know that if I screw up, it's going to be okay. So find a mentor. Also, know what your skills are. You're not going to be great at everything, but be the best you can with the skills that you have. And if there's areas you need to improve, work to improve those areas. Replacement value, that's an interesting concept, right? Nobody's going to replace you on campus because a lot of the places where you volunteer your time, it's kind of thankless tasks. There's not always somebody right behind you wanting to step into that role. In the workforce, that's a little bit different. You can be replaced at the drop of a hat, especially in a competitive market like we find ourselves in right now. So understand that and always work to make yourself more valuable. There are certain areas of law that when I was young, I did not enjoy practicing in. My practice is mainly litigation. I love being in the courtroom. But there were times when I needed to do transactional work, drafting documents and that sort of thing. I could not stand it. But I also knew that if I looked at a partner in my firm and said, no, that was not going to be good for me long term. But I also realized that, look, the litigation work could go away one day. So I've got to be able to be in a position that if the firm environment changes, I can change with it. And don't take yourself too seriously. And I am such a victim of this. Again, with my secretary, when I first started, I thought that I was maybe 1 to 2 years away from being on the U.S. Supreme Court, right? I had graduated from UT Law School, I know how to practice law, and I am on a fast track to wearing a black robe the rest of my life. I had zero humility whatsoever, and I had to learn I did not know nearly as much as I thought I knew. The next thing on this list is that I asked was, what's the most important trait that you believe somebody coming out of college should possess? Humility was one that came up, eagerness to learn and to be teachable. And then the big thing that kept coming up was work ethic, drive, willingness to work hard. You know, we as a generation or 2 ahead of you, we have to change how we think, right? There are attorneys in my office who think if you're not in the office at your desk, you're not working. Well, the reality is I can be just as productive as I was when my family required me to go to Disney 2 different times when I had young children. I could be just as productive sitting in the hotel room at Disney World. Whereas the partners I was working for, you know, there weren't iPhones and things like that whenever they took their families to Disney World. So we have to change how we look at the work ethic of people like you all who are coming along behind us, because y'all are probably a lot more efficient and effective than we were. And so, but you also have to know that if wherever you're working, the expectation is that you work and get your work done at your desk, sometimes you just got to take one for the team and be there, even though sitting at Starbucks or Panera or somewhere like that could be more productive for you. Initiative is a great thing. I love it when a young associate comes in my office and says, "Hey, Will, I'm a little slow right now. Do you need help with anything?" Because probably I've been so busy I haven't even thought about what could somebody do to help me right now. Take initiative wherever you are, because again, that's a gold star for you that people remember. And this was perhaps my favorite quote from any one of the responses I received. You don't know anything valuable yet, so have a valuable attitude, right? I mean, you don't know your organization's culture, wherever it is you're going. You probably don't know how to do the actual work yet. The thing you can control, work ethic and attitude. And the other thing I would add to that, gratitude is such an important trait. Being appreciative for those people who take a risk and a chance on you, that is huge. I mean, I truly, if I had just done this presentation today about saying thank you, I could have talked for 30 minutes about hundreds of people that I need to thank for the fact that I even was on Chancellor Cheek's radar to come here and speak today, because I didn't get here on my own. There were a lot of other people that propelled me here. And then the last thing on this list was agility, learning to adapt, and that is so true. Stuff gets thrown at you in the real world at a very fast pace. I mean, it probably does on campus for you all too. If you're planning an event, Relay for Life, and it starts pouring down rain, you got to be agile. You got to be willing to adapt, and that's a very important trait for you in the workforce. So finally, I asked them to tell me what they thought the biggest challenge was in transitioning from campus to professional. And starting over is tough, right? I mean, you come to campus as a freshman, and the great thing is, it's 4 years. So by year 2, you're older than 25% of the people. By year 3, you're in the top half. Well, in the workforce, I've been at my firm 15 years, and on our letterhead, there are 14 people above me and 7 below me. So I've been there a long time, but I'm still in the bottom half of just the people in our firm. That's not a bad thing, though. It's a great opportunity for you to learn and grow. And the point on here that I agree with the most, and it's a tough one, diversity of age, and to a lesser extent, audience. Probably the thing I had the hardest time with starting a professional career was feeling like I was being discriminated against or looked down upon because I was young. I would sit in depositions or court, and people would say, "Well, how long have you been with Kramer Racing?" "Oh, 3 weeks." And you can automatically see that look that they're like, "Yeah, I'm not paying attention to anything you say. You're young." Then I thought maybe 5 years would be the crescendo. Well, it wasn't. I've been there 15 years now, and I still feel like I'm young and new and learning, and that I always have something to prove. Here, you're dealing with people who are roughly in similar age brackets. But when you get out, there are people who have been doing whatever it is you want to be doing for a lot longer than you. And you just have to use those people as a resource, as mentors, as examples to learn from, and not feel like, "Oh, I don't have anything valuable to contribute just because I'm young." You do have a lot to offer, but you got to figure out kind of the when, where, and why to offer it. The next thing, experience plus talent plus attitude equals success, and that is so true. Experience takes time. You obviously don't walk out of college with any real world experience. You've got some talent. You wouldn't be in this class. You wouldn't have done the things you've done on campus if you didn't have talent. And you obviously have a good attitude, because you don't have success on a college campus without a good attitude. Because if it's an elected position, or appointed position, whatever it may be, if you don't have a good attitude, nobody is going to move you into those positions. And that leads to success. There will probably be a little bit more bad experiences in the real world, just because things are moving at a more rapid pace. use them as a learning opportunity. I mean, I've screwed up. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had to have some really difficult phone calls with clients before. I can think of one the day before Memorial Day of 2011 when I finished up a 2-week-long jury trial, and my client had the largest verdict in the history of Knox County rendered against it. And I had to call the general counsel in New York and tell him that. That was not fun at all. But I'm a lot better lawyer now because of things I learned through that experience. So don't be afraid of those failures because you'll learn from them. And then just be ready for the change of pace because things are going to come at you very quickly when you move on. The last thing I'll tell you, and it's a bit of advice that I wish I'd gotten, was figure out what your story is. Some people call it an elevator speech. If you're on an elevator for 30 seconds and somebody says, tell me about yourself, figure out what your story is because you've all done things that will set you apart from the people walking down Volunteer Boulevard right now, just going to and from class and not doing anything outside of just attending class. Figure out your story because it gives you context to others and it helps reinforce the context that you will get from the experiences you're having in the real world. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be a very simple story, but figure out what your story is because you're going to get a lot of opportunities to share it along the way. And how do you share your story in a way that lets people remember who you are? Because that's very important. You want to be remembered when you get into whatever professional life you get into and working on figuring out what your story is. And you all are in a perfect position to have a great story based on the things you've done here on campus. So figure out that personal story and don't be afraid to share it with people. So I'll open it up for questions. I know y'all have some other things you need to do today, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to take them. But again, congratulations to you all, and I'm jealous of the opportunities that lie ahead for all of you because this is truly as an exciting of a time as you'll ever find yourself having in life.
During your undergrad career, what is one thing you wish you would have done? Like now looking back, like what is one thing you wish you would have done?
Oh, wow. That is a great question. I wish